Cześć, z tej strony Dominik, a ty słuchasz podcastu Dane są wszędzie. W każdym odcinku znajdziesz praktyczne wskazówki, inspirujące rozmowy i ciekawe spojrzenie na to, jak dane wpływają na nasze życie, pracę i decyzje. Zaczynajmy. Okay, hello to everyone. Today the episode is going to be in English because we've got a special guest that I'm very happy to have here. Marek Kabat is with us. Marek, I would be grateful if you could introduce yourself to the listeners, because I guess that some people might be interested who actually joined our episode today.
Hello, thanks for having me, and of course I will be happy to introduce myself. So I work as a football data analyst. I work as a freelancer. I have several collaborations. The biggest ones are with Widzew Łódź and with the Slovak First Division, Liga, and I think that we will both discuss them today. And I also was collaborating with data company Statsbomb, so maybe that's something that could be interesting for your listeners as well.
Yeah, cool. Personally, I'm a huge fan of football, so I'm really looking forward for our chat today. Okay, so how did your journey into football analytics start? Yeah, was there always a special place for football in your heart as a boy or something, or how did you become a data analyst in terms of football?
Football was has always been a big part of my life, but honestly, I would never imagined that I would be working as a data analyst in football, to be honest. So, and I have never played it professionally, but of course, I was a big fan and I watched a lot of football. And how it started, I think that it was a few years back while I was watching the movie Moneyball for the 8th time or something like that, and and I asked myself, what does this look like in football? And that started basically my interest, and from there my fascination with this has only grown and probably will continue to grow in the future still.
Cool. And when it comes to the background, yes, because I guess you need to have some skills to not only understand football in sense of itself, but also you need to have some kind of a background, yes. So you graduated from some studies in Spain, as far as I remember, yeah, that were in field of football analytics. How did that look like?
Yeah, but that happened after. Originally, I was studying and working in a completely different field. I was studying journalism and I was working in marketing, so not related at all. But when I started to paying attention to this topic, I started by researching, taking some courses, and reading a lot of articles on football analytics at that time. And then I have to say that I got quite lucky because I got a ticket to my first Statsbomb conference in London. It happened at Wembley. It was a great experience for me. And I met some people there, had some interesting conversations, and after that it led to a collaboration with Statsbomb. So this was my beginnings. And what you have mentioned, after that I also started to study or doing my master's on Stars Data Campus, and I finished my master there, and besides that I did a lot of another courses and things that helped my development also on the technical side.
Yeah, sounds cool. Okay, so now let's maybe jump a little bit to the actual projects that you're working on. Yeah, so the first one that you also mentioned is Liga. Yeah, so that's the Slovak highest league for football. What kind of data is actually being analyzed there? Yeah, if you could share some insights. What kind of product is it? Is it more some kind of operational data being analyzed for the clubs, or is it more like some football stats? Yeah, I'm really interested in that because I've never worked in that field. Yeah, so all kind of information would be very interesting. Yeah, because I guess that there's not that many people who actually have a chance to work with data in football.
Yeah. This project or this collaboration is a little bit different. It's not only about the data analyzing. It also includes like project management and content creating and this kind of stuff. So I collaborate with Slovak League called Liga on several projects, but I think that the most like important one and the key one is developing our own data platform for the clubs. It's an initiative of the league, and the goal there is to merge all available data sources into one platform where clubs can work in a single environment with one login, so it's more easy and convenient for them. And regarding sources that they have, like data sources, there are basically three. The first one is like fitness or GPS data. So like basically all clubs are collecting them on their own, and almost all clubs in the Slovak League use Catapult as data provider. Then it's event data, something that I work with the most, and Statsbomb is the official provider of the league in Slovakia. And then it's video, and so you have also like we want to merge all these sources into one. And the video provider is, by the way, the same as in Polish league. It's Panoris.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this collaboration is not focusing that much on doing analysis. It's more about creating the right environment for the clubs and also helping them to take the right steps forward in this area. And when I do some analysis within this collaboration, is more about creating some content for marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. I get it. And when it comes to the platform itself, yeah, so is it like you mentioned there's a different field of data being exposed and put in there actually? And does it mean that the clubs can have a look at each other's data, or is it like restricted for one particular club? Because that's something that came up to my mind right now. Yeah, because how does it look like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And it differs because with fitness and GPS data, they are collected by these, vests that players are wear. And each club collects them on their own, and so it's like they own it, so they are not sharing it with anyone, and it's just for them. But regarding event data, it's different because all clubs have some kind of level of access to event data by the league, Statsbomb data, and they are like collected by this data company, and they are providing the data. So all clubs have the same data, the same access at some level, and some of the teams there are purchasing like the higher version or the higher level of this kind of access. And with video, it's obvious. With video, it's everybody has access to the same like versions of video.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and when it comes to the event data, you mean that it's, the amount of football fans that show up by the match or stuff like this, right? Or
no, event data is like every event that happens during the match, like if it is pass, carry, or shot, or interception, tackle, every kind of data. It's you have like the raw data in Excel file, for example. You have 3,000 rows of a single match, and you can find all the events that happened in the match. And then like that's event data, but of course there are also other kinds of data. For example, I think that something that will be like in the future, the most important source of data are tracking data. And those are different because you have like 25 frames per second or 25 information per second that are collected, and you can also monitor like off-ball events there as well.
Yeah, so sounds good. Because at first I thought that event data means, some kind of aggregations over what's going on by the stadium, not exactly on the pitch, but
just like a football event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, so that's really cool. And what kind of, you mentioned that there is some data is being stored as simply Excel files, yeah? Are there any kind of more sophisticated data sources, or is it like everyone is trying to make it, readable for, let's say, an average user that might be interested in it?
Yeah, it was just an example how you can approach it, because you can have approach through API. Mm-hmm. You can download CSV file. You can connect it directly to Tableau. So it's like several options how to approach it. But when I want to describe like the easiest way how these data look like, and especially event data, then you can imagine some CSV file or some Excel with 3,000 rows, and each row is one event in that game.
Yeah, cool. And how does the maturity of, let's say, usage of data changed over the last couple of years, I would say, yeah, because data is, of course, being more and more popular in different areas, yeah? And how did it change in football over the last couple of years? Because I remember, it was like 15 years ago, a friend of mine from high school, he used to have some part-time job, and he attended some kind of, football matches of the lower leagues in Poland. I'm greeting Jędrzej right now if you're listening to that. And, he just had to note down everything what was going on the pitch, including the passes that were made and stuff like this. Yeah. So just on your opinion, how did it evolve over the last couple of years? Maybe even if you are more into football, I guess it's still being improving. Yeah, the maturity and the difference of data that you can get when it comes to analyzing a particular football game.
Yeah, I think that it's evolving every day. It's pretty dynamic, and I would say a few years ago, only a few teams were really using event data. And today, I think that while still not everyone is using event data, we are already entering the world of this tracking data that I have mentioned, that I think that it will be like the future. And I think it depends on the region, it depends on the country. Of course, it's connected to budget. So you have to have a budget for purchasing this data, and also to have budget for someone who will work with those data. So it's connected, but I think that it's like there are huge steps over the last years.
Yeah, sounds cool. So there are some, just to summarize, so there are some external data providers, yeah? For instance, you've got some wearables that the players wear during the trainings, during the matches, and it can aggregate some kind of a data. Then there is some provider for the event data that just simply follows what's going on the pitch, yeah? And then you can ask the guys and simply buy it from them to have it to work somehow with it. Yeah, I mean, if you are a club and you want to get more into it.
Maybe I can just summarize it to have it clear. There are basically three types of data. Let's say the first one, GPS or fitness, like those vests that our players are wearing, and every team is collecting them on their own, and you can get their information like distance running, high speed running, maximum speed, and this kind of stuff. That's like the first source. The second type of data is this event data, and they are collected by data companies. Let's say they are like two biggest and two best companies that I consider as the best ones are Statsbomb and Statsperform. And they are providing this event data to leagues, to clubs. They also have their own platforms where you can work with it within these platforms, or through API, or through exports, or whatever. And then the third type of data is tracking data. Like I would say the most advanced. It's something that covers everything on the pitch 25 times per second, and it opens up basically any other any kind of possibilities, because with event data, you have information only what happens with these football events. But with tracking data, you can analyze, for example, different type of off-ball runs and off-ball movements that you cannot see in the event data.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And coming back a little bit to the product of Nika Liga, is it already live, let's say, so the actual users are using it, or is it still like in progress? What's the phase of the product itself?
Mm-hmm. We are still like in the process of progress. We prepared like some initial versions of it, and right now we have like these discussions with all teams to get feedback from them, to show them how it works, how to work with that. And after this, getting feedback, we would like to prepare the final version so teams can use it.
Yeah, so sounds good and cool. So happy that such stuff is going on actually. that people are and the clubs are getting more into the data. Yeah, that is available and. Okay, cool. So maybe now let's move a little bit to our Polish side. Yeah, you are also working with Widzew Łódź, yeah, just like you mentioned. So can you explain what your duties in there are? How does your day look like? What are you doing in there? Of course, on the level that you can.
Yep, like my work is mostly focused on two areas, I would say. The first one is team performance, and the second one is scouting. And within team performance, it's about analyzing matches. Each week, I prepare a match report, and then we have a discussion about that match, and then I also prepare some summarizing monthly reports with some key insights and key takeaways that we work with further. And with scouting, it's like, I would say, I'm working on both sides of scouting. So also on the quantitative phase, let's say, where it's mostly about like creating long lists of players for specific profiles, specific roles. And then there is also like this qualitative side where I go like deeper with scouting reports on individual players.
Okay, sounds cool. And when it comes to scouting, yeah, for instance, are there any kind of platforms that aggregate the data? Because once someone told me that, for instance, like 10 minutes after the match, you can see the actual performance of the guy that you're looking at, yeah, or looking into. Does it really look that way?
It depends. Like some data you have sooner, some of them you have later. But as I explained before, with these different types of data, like this GPS, event, and tracking, we have our providers for this kind of data, and we get this data from them, and we can work with them and analyze.
Yeah, okay, so you can, for instance, if you are looking for someone who is not playing yet for the club, you can still order such data, let's say, that you are interested in, let's say, a bunch of players who might potentially join the club, and you can, of course, order such data just to be in touch and see what's going on with that particular guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are like different sources, and some of them are better for this quantitative phase from some reasons. Some of them are better for qualitative phase, and some of them are covering also this, like, not just event data, but also off-ball movements and some physicalities and this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds very interesting. And when it comes to the performance, itself, you mentioned that the area that you're also working with, so how does the process of creating such stuff look like? Is it something that you are seeking for some, let's say, outliers, or is it some KPIs that you measure in based on the coach's vision approach? Yeah, if you could get into more details in here, what kind of measures are you actually looking at? Because I guess there are some basic ones like everyone can see when watching football match, like, distance, or a number of sprints of stuff like this. But if you could share some insights, how does you get some raw data? There has been a match, and how do you carry on with the analysis?
Mm-hmm. So we have it's called game model, and it says like basically in what way we want to play, in how we want to like achieve wins and so. And this game model it's like connected to different game phases or in football. So you have like build up, progression, chance creation, and then out of possession, like high press, mid block, low block. And within this game model, you have phases that are like for each phase you have some approach that you want to have and some execution that you want to achieve. And to those game phases are connected some KPIs with some metrics, as you mentioned. So with I would say week to week analysis is more about watching the KPIs, because you want to see there, like to evaluate the game, and you want to see there some trends. And within these monthly reports or round reports, it's more maybe about some outliers as well, and also about some trends, some takeaways, like insights that we can use further. And just to give you some example, exactly as you mentioned, they're just like raw data, and you need to get like some useful metrics from that raw data. So for example, if you want to measure out of possession stuff, like for example with high press, you have some metrics that are common. For example, PPDA, it means passes per defensive action, and it measures like how many passes you allowed for opponent to have before you made defensive action. So it shows like how aggressive you were with your out of possession approach and how successful also you were with this execution. And so the lower PPDA, the more successful were your like out of possession aggressive approach. And these kind of metrics you need to choose, of course, the best ones to measure your game phases within your game model, and then you can evaluate it.
Cool. Sounds good. And these KPIs, are they, let's say, defined in let's say the book of football, or is it like someone who is how flexible they are in terms of let's say the analysis? Yeah, is it the coach saying that, hey Marek, I would like to measure stuff like, I don't know, I'm not that much into the football analytics itself, but let's say I want to divide number of passes by I don't know, shots, or is it more like the book of football that you want to follow? Yeah, that you've got some basic or general KPIs that you can follow, and is there a place for flexibility and how creative are the trainers, the football analytics that are also within the team? Yeah,
I would say that there are some like key principles that work, but there is no book of football, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. So it's more about being flexible and creative, because there are some key principles that work for everyone, but basically you have like different KPIs and different metrics for different game models. So the first thing is you need to ask the right questions because without the right questions you are lost. You have no idea what you are searching for and how you should do it, because there is like so many options what to do with this raw data. So you need to ask the right questions, and then you can find the answers. But there are some metrics that are common. For example, like PPDA, like every analyst in the world knows what is PPDA. And you have these metrics like within these platforms from Statsbomb or Statsperform. You have it there in the platform already, but you also can calculate your own from the raw data based on what you need to analyze or what you want to see.
Yeah, just like you mentioned, the principle of every kind of analysis, you need to ask the questions and know before what you want to dive into it. Yeah. Okay, and Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
It's the key.
Yeah, okay. And do you also monitor, let's say, some kind of health data of the players? Yeah, I mean, just to track if someone is overtrained or undertrained, or because I guess that there is some program, for the players to follow in the different phases of the season, in the different weekdays, before the game, etc. So is this data also being analyzed in terms of, let's say, the health and the performance of the footballers, not only the things that they do by the pitch, just strictly, I don't know, passes and the KPIs that you mentioned, but also, let's say, the monitoring of their health and performance, simply in terms of the body metrics, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. There are, like, with these GPS systems, they are covering both training sessions and matches. There are also, like, questionnaires that are filled by players, and also some, like, health questionnaires. And this is more for the fitness coach and for, like, the medical stuff. So I'm not working with this kind of data that much, but I would like to do that in the future as well, more.
Cool. And how does the data analysis in let's say, Widzew affect the preparation for the match? Yeah, because for instance, there are some, apart from this health data, that we mentioned here, but just like you mentioned, you've been working on these KPIs. Yeah, so you set up such a report indicating that something is on the track and something is off the track. Yeah, so. Is there any kind of session that you all have with the trainers, or how does it look like in terms of, just putting these insights into real life, and to the training and stuff like this?
Like, with data, and mostly with data that I work with, it's more about, like, long-term evaluating than short-term, because it's more valuable in like longer periods than shorter ones. So for me, the key sessions or the key discussions are on this, like, let's say, monthly basis, where I really try to be not just, like, describing what data say, but also I'm trying to translate these, like, data points into really, like, clear and actionable football insights. So after my presentation or my report is really, like, clear from my point of view, based on my interpretation, like, what does it mean? What does it say about our strengths, our weaknesses, our, like, opportunities or threats? And this, like, I think that these are the key input for a further discussion and for further, like, implementation into training process, tactics, player selection, and so on.
Sure, I get it. And getting more into the technical aspects of your work, what kind of tools are you actually using right now? For instance, when running such analysis in Widzew, is it some kind of custom script? I get the point. You've got some raw data. That's the starting of point. But is it some kind of a let's say your own scripts being developed, like, or is it some kind of a tool that you're using, some library? I don't know. It's quite very interesting for me. How does it work?
Basically, there are, like, three parts of the answer. The first one is the most easiest one, and it's, like, from our data provider, which is Statsbomb. We have a platform. It's called IQ, and within this platform, it's very friendly and easy to use. You don't need to be any kind of data person to use it. So you have there, like, visualizations, metrics, and tables, whatever you need. So that's the first thing, that you can work with this platform. Of course, the negative point of it is that it's not flexible at all. It's like, you have there this kind of visualization, you have there this kind of metric, and that's it. You have to work with it. But for me, still, it's very useful. The second one is, I would say, like, I work with Python. To be honest, I'm not any expert in Python, but I can execute what I need. So that's enough for me. And it's mostly for me like collecting data, preparing data for further use, developing and creating my own metrics from the raw data, doing some more like complex visualizations or based on like bigger data sets. So this kind of stuff I do with Python. And the third one, my favorite one, is Tableau. That's where I started because, as I mentioned to you, my background was completely different. I didn't work with data back then, and I started with Tableau, and it's still my favorite tool, and I love doing a lot of my work there. So I keep all these kind of like visualizations and trend lines and this kind of stuff I keep in Tableau, and I work with that in Tableau.
Okay, cool. And does it mean that, for instance, I don't know, trainer Myśliwiec has access to Tableau and then he can access your reports, or is it like generally that there are a couple of, let's say, analytics guys or that have a look at these reports and then there's some kind of a summary for the trainer? I'm really looking forward who's the actual user, of such reports that are there within the Tableau ecosystem.
He could have an access, but I'm sure that he doesn't have time for this. So that's the thing. That's the important thing, that I need to prepare for either the coach or board members or scouting department. I need to prepare some outcomes that they can directly work with. Of course, like the scouts in the club, they have access to the tools that they are working with it. That's like, of course, there's a different story. But regarding my work, it's mostly about like getting like some kind of final outcome that it's like you can directly work with it in terms of football.
Okay, sure, I get it. And can you share how big is the analytical cell within Widzew Łódź? Is it you alone working with the data, or is it just like a couple of you guys? If you could share some insights, how it's generally organized, in terms of data analytics within such club that is on the, let's say, highest level of football in Poland.
Mm-hmm. At this moment, it's like primarily me who is working with the data, but of course there is some kind of like vision and plan how to grow with this. Because when I remember when I was like building like way in the past, when I was building my network, I was trying to get in touch with as many people as possible, and then if it makes sense, discussing also some potential collaborations. And that's how I got in touch with the vice president of Widzew, Maciej Szymanski, and we talked about the club's vision for working with data and also the role I could play in that process. And I found it very interesting at that time. And I think that that we are still at the beginning, and there is many things that we want to build there and achieve. So it's, I would say, more for the future, because I work with the club from the July last year, so it still had been like 8 months, and I think that we did like a great progress there, but still way to go.
Yeah, cool, and it's very sounds very good. Yeah, but there's a plan to carry on with data analysis. Yeah, which is like gold, and plenty of interesting information can be found within the data that the clubs can have. You mentioned a little bit that there was some networking. Yeah, when you how did your journey with Widzew start actually? Yeah, did you meet at some kind of a conference, or can you share some insights how it all materialized?
Yeah, it was that time I was trying really because building the network in football is like really one of the most essential think if you want to work in football. And since I don't have any kind of like playing it professionally or something like that, this kind of past, then I didn't have any significant network in football. So I was doing my best to meet these people, for example, through conferences or through social media, like LinkedIn is very good for this. And that was, for example, the way that I also got in touch with Widzew.
Cool. And when it comes to our Ekstraklasa in Poland, do you know how keen the football teams are on analyzing data? As far as I know, Lech Poznań from my hometown is also even running some kind of a data science cell that they have. I'm just wondering how many clubs, or are you aware of that? How many clubs are actually interested in analyzing, and how many clubs are actually analyzing data in Ekstraklasa?
But to be honest, I'm not focusing that much on other clubs, and I don't live in Poland, so that's another thing.
Okay.
But also back from my days at Statsbomb, I know that there have been and still are several clients from Poland. And I'm sure quite a few Polish clubs work with data, I would say, in a quite advanced way. And for example, when you mentioned Lech Poznań, I think 2 years ago, I met guys from Lech at the Statsbomb conference, and I had a chat with them, and it was great. But I don't think that I can really say in how many clubs and in which clubs, what kind of level it's with in working with data.
Yeah, sure. I get it. How does the data analytics change the modern football? Yeah, I would say. And what are the trends that you see right now in terms of data analysis? I'm not talking about, let's say, our local clubs. I guess that as you are interested in the topic, you might see some trends, that are getting popularity right now. What kind of trends would you foresee for the next years or something? We are just discussing. So
I would maybe start with the part like how data changed football, and of course we can speak about some details like how it's changed approach to possession based models or high press or shooting more closer to goal. But in general, I think that it's mostly about like doing better and more informed decisions. So that's the key thing for me with data, because in the end, when you are able to improve your success rate of right decisions from 60% to 70% is already a win. And you can do it by data, but of course it's tough. I can give one example that, for example, let's take like the probability of potential success of a new player in a team. And he needs to fulfill like several expectations to become successful there. So let's say he has like 90% probability that he's really the player that you expected. Then 90% probability that he stays healthy and avoid injuries. The same with successfully adapting to a new league, country and environment. Then that he fits the coach tactics. That he proves that he will be better than other players in this position that are already in the club. And if you put like 5 or 6 these probabilities of even 90% together, and all of them seem quite reasonable and positive for you, but still you end up with 50 or 60% probability that everything will work out in the end exactly as you want. So it's difficult to make these decisions, and every perspective or any kind of information you can gather can help you. And for me, this is something, or this is the place where data make the biggest difference.
Yeah, so sounds good. And do you see also the trend in terms of using the data science algorithms in football? Because one thing is the descriptive data itself, that we are visualizing or analyzing something that actually happened, So there was such number of passes, such KPIs were calculated over the match, but I guess that there is also a place for data science in football, that someone's gonna create some kind of models, just for instance, try to find out the players that can be potentially interesting for you or anything else, So is there such trend as well in football? I'm pretty sure it is, but if you could share some insights.
Yeah, it is. And like building statistical or predictive models is, I would say, one of the most important things or approaches for analyzing games, and with scouting, definitely it's very important. And every data company provides you like its own models, and at the same time, like these teams, they have in-house data departments that they develop their own models. And this is the way how you can get like your edge with data, especially on the transfer market. So, for example, when we go way back to the history, when XG or expected goals, which is like the most common and most well-known model, so back then it wasn't that popular. So if you were using XG, you could like identify players who are, for example, underperforming the XG and scored less goals than they should, but nobody else who didn't use this didn't know that. So you could get them cheaper on the transfer market, and then in the next season they will score the goals that they should score the past season as well. so that's basic. Nowadays, I'm sure that everyone knows what is XG, and it's just a matter to use the best model of XG. But the thing now is, of course, to come with or develop like more advanced and complex models as well.
Yeah, sure, I get it. Okay, and just if someone is interested in data analysis, or in football, if someone wants to play around with such data, is there any available, let's say, online for free? Just to, but there is some listener who's just got inspired by our chat, and he wants to dive into some football data. Is there anything that you can recommend just for the people to have some fun having a look at the data?
Yeah, for me, the best source of free data, it's called FBRef.com, and it's a website where you can find like quite a lot of even data, but unfortunately not from all leagues. So if someone wants to analyze Ekstraklasa, it's more difficult to get this data. But if you want to just practice or have fun, you can do it with top 5 leagues, and with top 5 leagues you can find there really like very, very good source, and you can start and use any tool you prefer and like to create some outcomes.
Yeah, cool. And when it comes to for instance, Python scripting, just like you mentioned, you've been using Python. Are there any kind of, let's say, football-related libraries right now? Because, for instance, there are sometimes there are such analyses that you can see, the pitch, and there are some dots indicating where the shoot was taken from, or something like this. Yeah. Is there any kind of library that people can actually explore to make fun with such analysis?
Yeah, exactly. It exists. And for example, Statsbomb, they are publishing also some kind of free data. So you can try to, they are never like the data from the current season. They are also from the past. So it's not that good for analyzing what's going on in football right now. But if someone wants to really like play with the real data, with the like the real raw data that come from this kind of companies, that he can find it on the Statsbomb website, and he also can find like several scripts that are already created for this kind of data. So I cannot say the names of the websites. I cannot remember, but there is quite a lot of them.
Yeah. Cool. So we encourage people to have a look and explore, because I guess if someone is listening to our chat, he is potentially.
I think that is just Google Statsbomb Python script and you will find it.
Yeah, sure, I get it. And any kind of personal recommendation from you for someone who wants to deep dive a little bit more into football analytics? Yeah, any kind of book, podcast, something like this.
I think that nowadays there is like so many podcasts and content creators on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever that it's hard to choose just a few. But I think I would recommend for someone who is starting with this to follow, for example, The Athletic, because it's a good choice in terms that I really like how they combine data with tactics and putting them into some like readable stories. So I think it's good start to understand and to see how to work with those data, what kind of interpretation you can use there. So I think it's good start, and they use in their articles both event data and tracking data. So that's great. And in general, my recommendation would be like analyze and publish as much as possible, as you mentioned, like because by publishing your work, it allows you to get some valuable feedback and also build your network in football, which is really important, as I have mentioned. And regarding books, it's like I think that in recent years there is like many great books on football data and analytics. I think it's got quite popular, and quite a lot of them got published. And my favorite were Net Gains by Ryan O'Hanlon. He's an ESPN writer, and also Football Hackers by Christoph Wiermann. And this is this kind of books that like they cover this development and history and these most interesting stories of football analytics in past, 5, 6, 10 years. And you can basically in each of these books you can find similar stories and similar history, but these two, as I can remember, I like the most. And now recently there are two books that are covering like this data story of Liverpool, which is quite interesting, the whole story and the situation in Liverpool in terms of data. And one was Data Game by Josh Williams. And now there is a book, How to Win the Premier League. And it's great because it's directly from the insider, because it's written by Ian Graham. And Ian Graham was like he's a former director of research at Liverpool. And back then, when he was there, I don't know how it is right now, but back then his team was like full of astrophysicists and people who work in CERN and in this kind of stuff. So it was quite high level of data science. So it might be really interesting and inspiring.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I will link to everything in the description of the episode. Yes. So if someone is interested, feel free to jump into the ones that Marek just recommended. Yeah. Recommended. Okay. So do you watch football after all, or is it like you're done after the job and you don't follow it anymore?
That's a great question. Of course I do, but not in the same way as I did before. It's very different. It's much less like this kind of enjoyable watching from the fan or supporter perspective. It's more like I'm still analyzing things when I watch it, and it's not that fun anymore in that way, but it's fun in any like a completely different way.
Yeah, so you watch it more like a data professional rather than a simple fan of any team, yeah.
It's like when I watch football, I have a feeling that I am still at work.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Marek. It's been great to talk to you. We enjoyed our talk and wish you all the best. And I will link to your account on LinkedIn or X if you like, and that's the place where you can find Marek. Yeah. So thanks a lot, and talk to you later, maybe someday.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me, and it was a pleasure. And I will be happy to come again here.